right. We are back for another session, about an hour conversation here. I'm Ross. I know some of you have seen my face over the course of the day. I'm joined here with Natalie and Aakash, and we're here to talk about, as you can see, community, socials, and NFTs. So before we dive in, why don't the two of you introduce yourselves? We'll start with you, Natalie.
Well, I am obviously not Ross. I'm Natalie Crue. I am traditionally a culture producer. I've been in crypto for about 9 million years, NFT since 2016. Have built up a number of communities from NFTs.tips to leading social impact at Pizza DAO, and now also the lead curator at M Club, which is another DAO. And so here building up the creator economy and supporting people that are onboarding, whether they're brands or individual creators. And happy to be here with TF Labs and yourself, Ross, and my dearest friend, Aakash. So
Thank you. And Aakash?
Thank you, Ross. Excited to be here with Natalie. So I have been an entrepreneur for my entire adult life, and really also an artist, but been merging art and business together. And so Web3 is really exciting for me because it's feels like the culmination of all of my life work that wasn't ready for all of those things to merge. So I've had a lifestyle brick and mortar physical retail shop that is skewed to the design and art business. And then I've also been involved in a lot of different startups along that time. And I'm advising brands and smaller brands as well as larger brands, which I think is very different in this ecosystem, on just how to bridge the physical and the digital, which is known as the phygital, which is one of my favorite words in this space. So excited to have this conversation, and thank you for having me, and excited to be here with Natalie as well. And I got to know Natalie on the Pizza DAO, which she was so actively involved in, and that was my sort of origin to the space in terms of NFTs.
Awesome. And before we continue, if anyone in the audience, you guys want to plug your favorite channel, community, NFT, DAO, pop it in there. Give it a go. Okay, so for me, I am the community manager and the event manager here with TF Labs, but I'm also pretty green, pretty new when it comes to NFTs as a topic. So maybe to start out at the beginning, what are some good resources? I know we talked about this last time we spoke with you, but we have a new audience today. What are some good resources, communities maybe to go and engage with if you're brand new to Web3?
hi to everybody in the chat as well. So there's so many different communities across the ecosystem of Web3 and NFTs and all these other things. I personally love, for brands, there's a community called Jumpstart, or no, it's called Jump. And they are actually a digitally native organization that caters to marketers. I also, just my personal favorite, Seed Club. They help accelerate communities as well as folks that have social tokens. And so it's a great place to get a grasp on what this space is actually about, get a grasp of the cultural and social fabric that I talk so often about in other spaces. It's a great place to get information and kind of get directed to different portals and spaces, because a lot of the bigger DAOs and other organizations and even some NFT projects have actually grown out of both Seed Club, and my next favorite community is Forefront, which is a portal to Web3. Not necessarily marketer heavy. However, it's a great place to kind of get a grasp of what the space is about, who's who of kind of Web3, what people are doing, how people are innovating and pushing the space forward. And I think those kind of things can help frame your journey, whether you're a brand or individual creator in this space, and kind of connect with the right people, which I always talk about relationships and how those relationships will kind of frame your journey. And so those communities, Jump, Seed Club, and also Forefront, are some great places to start out. There's also, lastly, a million people on Clubhouse talking about NFTs, but I personally love Neighborhood Jewelry with Kane Mayfield, and also Sorry, I'm reading the chat. And he's just a great educator in the space, knows what he's talking about, super candid and fun, and somebody I can hang around for several hours at a time. And so both on Clubhouse and other spaces. So totally check out those and find out where you land. So
cool. And Aakash, maybe something more pointed toward to artists. I know that's your world. That's your.
No, I think even in addition to what Natalie I think also just for people sort of that are coming into the space that are like, I know one resource that I like, and this is not necessarily geared towards say an entrepreneur, but a creator. Natalie got me involved with Mirror and what's the other one, Natalie? Mirror is partnered with another one that's like decentralized YouTube and like almost like a WordPress. Oh, I can't think of that. Natalie, can you think of the other one, Mirror, and the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm like stuck on Mirror. So I don't know.
There's another one that's Mirror. So anyway, those are two creators. I'll think of it and find it and put it in the chat. But like platforms like that where they're similar to something that's, like they're an alternative that offer decentralization to something somebody's already using, that then they can come and understand, well, it's similar, but it has like the creator gets to own their stuff. And I think the understanding of how somebody can participate and why Web3 is different than Web2 by doing like those kind of resources, I think when you do by action, you learn. And a lot of the things that Natalie mentioned, I'm also like aware of all those, and those are great resources too. And for artists, I think, understanding just the ecosystem in terms of like, look at all of the blockchains, like and there's so many, there's almost an abundance of resources. Like there's so many places you can go from. Every single platform has their like creator guide. So the question actually is not where are the resources, but finding the resources that value your time. And that way you're not spending all your time researching, because there has to be a certain point where you jump in and take action. And I think that's the balance of this space, is where do you stop learning and then say, okay, I'm going to try. And then I'm not afraid to make a mistake either. And what is the consequence of my mistake? If I learn properly before, then I can learn like, okay, if I use this blockchain, my consequence on my mistake might not be as costly as using another blockchain example like that. So those are the things that I really recommend in terms of starting out as the best resources, and then really looking, to like where you fit in. Like that's my big message, is like finding the vertical that applies to you and not looking too great as a macro level where you get confused.
Cool. If anybody in the viewership or in the audience has a specific area of interest and they're having trouble finding resources, it sounds like these folks know a lot about the landscape. So maybe feel free to ask if there's an area of interest and you're struggling to find any resources or support. Cool. I mean, obviously community is massively important. That's how we got here today, right? You guys are connected to TF Labs through your relationship with Jonathan and through some of the platforms that you mentioned already. What are some things that you both do to engage with your own communities and maybe potentially help grow your communities professionally and maybe personally or as a hobby? Is that too broad?
No. I'm like, too much.
See you noodling.
I'm thinking, Natalie's so involved in this. I'm thinking how she's going to formulate an answer, because Natalie is so involved in community, and I've seen that, right? And everybody's community is different and how they do it, but I get excited watching Natalie's excitement over all of the communities that she's involved in. Go ahead, Natalie.
I can say the easy answer, but in reality, which is like we hold space for like people to come and onboard into the space and find kind of community, but through like Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse. But the reality is that a lot of the work that I do personally is really about building belonging and holding space for people to kind of find themselves, whatever that looks like, because everybody's journey is very different. Every brand that comes into the space, every individual creator, every already existing community, there's tons of them coming into the space. Their journey is very different. And so just holding space for people to kind of find themselves, to connect to other people, to build. One of the things that I found most valuable for people, just based on people's feedback, is like being the connector. It's one thing to draw people into like a Clubhouse or Twitter space, or other kind of Discord communities, which I'm starting to get sick of, by the way, is that, you know, I can say, hey, go hang out with Terry Garrett, a good friend of ours. She holds these spaces and does X, Y, and Z. Feel free to connect with her, good people. Give me some feedback. Let me know how you feel about that. And then kind of send people on their way, and being a connector for folks, whether they're musicians wanting to do an event in the metaverse, or they're collectives of people or brands wanting to collaborate with other artists that exist here. It's really being that connector that's been super helpful to build, being a tool for building community. And those people will always come back and say, hey, like, I have this opportunity. You connect me with this person, but we also have another opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. Can you find some other people that we can collaborate with? Or I'm really looking at this artist. Can we go hang out? What does that look like? And so many of the projects that I work on now have manifested out because of being the connector. I'd also say just I think people really misconstrue building community. Building a Discord is not building community. It's what you actually do. Like, how do you foster and invite people in to participate? Some people don't know how to participate. Some people don't know how to ask what that looks like for them to be involved, and just holding space to say, hey, these are opportunities we have for you to be involved. But if you can think of something else that's more aligned with your values, or more aligned with some of the stuff floating in your brain, which is something Seed Club does extremely well, you're able to foster a more robust community that adds value to everyone, by people just saying, hey, like, I like to do X, Y, and Z. How can we kind of figure out some semblance of a system for that? And I think that's been super helpful for a lot of the communities that I've co-built with other people. And so those are kind of some things that I'm always thinking about. How do we build the social and cultural fabric? How do we invite people in? How do we build belonging? So that is
Awesome answer.
I mean, one thing I'll add to this, I don't like the word community now that it's overused, right? Like, because people use it so frequently, it's like it's thrown out there where, like, and this happens to a lot of words, like in anything that gains traction, right? The word gets used over and over again. So I hear people use the word community so frequently, but then I think, like, did you stop to think about, like, what kind of community, what are the values of it, like what bonds you together? Like, one of the things I know that Natalie's talking about is she's talking about kindness, right? She's talking about inclusion. So the values of your community are so important to what you build. And then, do those values have the longevity to survive? Because if your community is built for a long term, then you've got to think about, when you have conflict, what's the resolution going to look like? Like, what is it going to be to keep your community together when you do have issues that occur? And I think a lot of times people don't think about those intentions when building. They just think, yay, it's going to be like this fun thing. But how do you maintain the community once you build it, once it grows? And as a community grows, when it goes from this small little thing, and it changes. And so I think understanding that change, and then keep aligning that, like, okay, checking in with the people who are the most active, and then even the people who are not necessarily, say, active vocally, to check into those people and say, is this community serving you? And to serve the most people within that community possible. And I think a lot of times that element of community, because it's such a quick buzzword, is lost to what is really truly a community.
Yeah. Okay. And this kind of segues into the second part of our topic here. And maybe this is a really straightforward answer, but what are some examples of ways that the two of you continue to engage with an established community, and make sure that things don't get stale? Obviously, I'm alluding to social media as one major platform to communicate, right? But yeah, how do you guys engage? How do you keep things fresh within an already established community?
I tend to I think Clubhouse, the main spaces we hang out on Reddit and Clubhouse and Twitter. However, I love utilizing the metaverse as a place to like gather. I think in the pandemic, I'm not the person that's going to continue to like go outside. Some of us are, some of us are not. Your choice. However, for me, being in the metaverse, whether it's CryptoVoxels or Decentraland or these other Monoverse or these other spaces, which allow us to like immerse ourselves in social environments where we can hang out, we can dance, we can chat, we can voice chat, we can video chat, a wide range of things, or go dress up and go to an event. There's being able to like gather and like hold space in that way is much different than us talking in a room. I just right before this came was in CryptoVoxels, and a friend of mine was like, hey, they're a group of builders that are building some incredible parcels up across the metaverse, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go hang out and like co-work together, which probably sounds wild to people. And they were building a project up for a small brand, and I went to go see their newest build, and we hung out and like we were chasing each other around and taking photos, and we're trying different stuff on, and just having that space to like gather and like be in community with each other kind of spices it up and makes it fun. I also love to embrace my inner child. Some of us left our imagination back in the 80s. So for me, I've never lost that. And so just embracing your inner child and engaging in play and trying not to take yourself too serious and spicing it up a little bit with the community. In Pizza DAO, we do giveaways during our community calls. We go hang out and dance. We go to Gather Town and play games on the whiteboard or start creating things together. And so just the thing around play, imagination, and co-creating with your community can be super impactful and like get people out of the rut, especially when you're trying to engage and building the actual infrastructure of communities. And so I encourage everybody to just like play and go hang out in the metaverse or IRL if you're okay with that, and kind of get out of the serious box for a hot second, and that can really inspire folks to build and kind of weave the web of community together. And so, yeah.
Cool. Gather Town getting a couple of plugs today on our
shout out to Gather
Town. Any follow up?
I think the other thing is like, so I was earlier today, I got to meet BitPixie, which I've heard so much about from Natalie. And, it's like this, when you think about like all of these communities, they're all adjacent to each other. So you have these like little micro communities, and then two of those come together. Then maybe like there's a larger and sub communities. And so I find that really interesting that, once you have, say, 3 or 4 people that that might know somebody, especially if there's a creative connection, and you've also got like so many different things that you find in common from value systems, but then also to say creative output and even aesthetics, and then the ability, like Natalie said, to play and just have fun. I think that's what the exciting part is. This space is all about excitement. And when I think navigating like specifically to brands, if a brand loses its excitement, it just becomes a brand, right? Like brands typically, like nobody gets that excited about going to Whole Foods unless you have some ritual or whatever brand or grocery store or place. But like the mundane, like grocery shopping or filling gas in your car, like no one thinks like, oh, I'm going to get so excited over by an NFT from the gas station. But if they do it in a way that makes it super cool, then you might. I mean, I was in the fragrance business in the last decade. And I remember when Burger King came out with a fragrance, and Burger King came out with like a $3 purse perfume, and it smelled like cheeseburger or something, meat or something. And it like was this cult following. It had resales on eBay. And it was like this silly thing, but it really got them the attention because somehow it connected in the silly with their customer, and it was fun, right? And I think the key thing for brands are that, like, even though everyone knows the brand is there to make money and for the bottom line, if a brand can still retain having fun where the consumer is engaged, and it's not just, my big thing is everyone's like, look at the value we've delivered. And I mean, I don't love a standard hoodie with stock art on it. To me is not value. And like people think it is, but personally, if I'm the one that's the buyer and I have 20 projects that all have, you know, relatively decent artwork, but then I'm getting like merch that I get to buy at half price, that's not enough value. And I think now where we are in the whole NFT thing is that people are scrutinizing and really asking, like, what do I get for the NFT? Whether it's community, whether it's a physical item, it doesn't matter what it is. But when anybody exchanges, you still want to know, what did I get? Even if I'm making a donation, you know, like even if it's for doing good. So, but I still want to know that my doing good did good because that was my intention. So I think having intention is really, really important. Now,
yeah, it's almost like you know, good guerrilla marketing, but in a digital space. And Jennifer, I see you in our comments in our chat here. Jennifer English, who is joining us today. I sent you an invitation to join us on stage. I have not been on the receiving side of that, but I think it's a pop-up on screen for you. I'm not sure if you're joining us mobily, but I am trying to get you up on stage to join us here. So maybe look around there's a tab that says people, where my invitation could be coming from.
Don't get lost backstage. Natalie and I are having a seat bar.
You don't know my list. I was gonna say before, in terms of like excitement, one of my favorite NFT drops like recently was by this artist named Shlomes. He's well known for like his quote unquote invisible NFTs. Like he really stirred up the pot last year, early last year. And so he recently blew up a Lamborghini, filmed it, and auctioned off individual parts that they collected afterwards. And basically people, the whole like gamification of this $ car, you can look it up on Twitter, was incredible to watch. The fervor, the energy, the excitement around that particular drop was actually one of the most interesting drops I've been able to like witness and observe. And so people, they had like a timer and people were like, oh no, there's like 3 more minutes. And so the whole Twitter like basically shut down for like a few hours, commenting on the timer, because every time you know, you bid, you had a certain period of time to be in the top, I don't remember, I think like top like 30 or something, to get like a piece of this. And so yeah, just like making things exciting and just like playing with people, and the space loves mischief a bit. And so that, I think that particular drop is quite it wasn't in partnership with Lamborghini, but I think that makes it even funner. And so yeah, that was a cool drop to check out in terms of the energy that we're kind of talking about as well. So
I love the word mischief. That was
I love
favorite.
it.
Well, it's funny, you guys are laying this up so well. My next question was going to be, you know, what are some interesting use cases that you've seen lately, and how different brands have engaged with their own community, or maybe even provided an opportunity for connection. And I think you both have spoken to at least one example already. But yeah, if you have, are there any others that you could think of off the top of your head? I think, Natalie, the one you shared about Lamborghini, we were talking about earlier today during our news portion with Maddie Satz, who I think you're both familiar with.
Yeah, I love, it wasn't a partnership with, it wasn't a partnership with Lamborghini. However, again, the mischief and people in the space love kind of surprises. I would also say the World of Women, I believe that's a project partnered with Barbie. Aakash, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Yeah, and so as much, you know, Barbie is a nostalgic brand, one of the biggest brands in history. And so World of Women has also staked their claim in this space and really has held space to talk about and amplify and resource women in this space. And so in multiple ways. And so I think their partnership with Barbie was a natural kind of fit, but also kind of really express kind of the essence of women in this space. Was super playful and really interesting. So I urge people to kind of check out that. I love the Adidas drop. Their kind of reveal was actually quite fascinating, and they brought people from the space to collaborate with. G Money, I know that Alan Henna worked on the Atom Bombs the hundreds drop as well. And so like they're bringing people to collaborate that are already in the space. They're not just parachuting in, but they're doing it in a fun way. They're kind of really allowing people to express their kind of true selves. They're spending time kind of studying the space and spending time in community with people here. And so those particular drops in terms of like brands typically stood out to me. So stand out, sorry.
Cool. Yeah, the Hundreds is an organization that I have followed before NFTs were a thing. So I've actually, that's kind of been my doorway into the space is that Atom Bombs project that you're speaking of there. So
you know, it's interesting because there's a lot of like old school kind of art brands that have came into the space. Like I think about like Obey by Shepard Fairey. Like even like I look at Misha Klein because he had a 30-year art career like in the Mary Boone Gallery. I think a lot of like there's definitely a connection to some of these artists that are like street underground that had social missions to them that I feel like those artists have been very different how they've used the space because they are able to see sort of the social change that the space can offer. I think a little different than other artists, you know, and the brand that I'd mentioned that, you know, like I have a strange feeling about it. So there's Pantone. I've been involved with Pantone for years, and Pantone gave a free NFT away. I have been watching it for 3 months, right? Like, and this is interesting for brands. So I actually even collected, I knew who the artist was going to be. 3 months ago, I bought one piece from that artist because I was so excited about the anticipation of the drop. Well, there's so much the FOMO is the space, right? So I missed it. And so like I looked at it, I even wrote, and the first thing I felt was anger because I thought like, oh my God, I've been waiting. And it's not even like it's not like I needed to buy it. It was a free drop, but I was so engaged as someone in the drop. And then the fact that I missed it, it made me start cursing at the brand, right? I started feeling angry that like, how could this happen after 3 months of paying attention, so engaged on something that's free that most people probably don't value in the way that I value. I missed out on it, right? And then I thought, okay, are you really that upset? I thought, no, you're probably being a little dramatic just because you can, right? But at the same time, like I was thinking about that there still is that feeling about it. And we're talking about color and psychology. And the truth of it is like now when I see the color of the year that this is based on, it's based on a color. The color makes me think of FOMO. So I now associate the Pantone color of the year that like, oh, that's that color I loved until I had to defend. And now my brand association is FOMO. So, I mean, that's
very Perry.
Right, very Perry. So, but at the same time, I think they did an amazing job. It's going to be, you know, connected to South by Southwest. They're going to have an exhibit, and they're building. And I think it's very smart for a brand to give a free NFT out because it shows the way to participate, that it's not just about money, and then it really demonstrates like the building of community. So, but I'm so excited we have Jennifer with us joining. Welcome, Jennifer.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard everything that you guys have said, so I'm very grateful to be given the chance to actually encourage the technology to welcome me in, because as you know, as someone who's spent their career in hospitality, my idea of value is rooted in welcoming. And when I welcome you, I tell you that I see you and I hear you and you matter. And you cannot build community without creating welcoming and hospitality. So regardless of the category that the brand is in, finding that sense of the connection in the community is really important. And when you do, you're really respecting and valuing the participation of people that have the thing that is the similarity that you share. And so one of the easy ways that I describe this to people is all communities everywhere. Imagine coming together, doing your hobby, doing your work, doing whatever, and then coming together around the table to talk about what you share and what you just did. Towards that end, food becomes, and the table becomes this really important place for community and community building. And whether it is like in GatherTown, they have a poker table where you can play a few hands of poker in or after a meeting. It becomes really connective. It's sort of like that connective tissue or fascia for a community that's especially remote to build trust, relationship, and connection. That's real value. And it's not a monetary thing. It's about the access. It's about those things that are more important than money, your health, your time, your well-being. There's lots of ways we can quantify it. But you asked the question, and I wanted to chime in because there's two things I think that Aakash and Natalie have said that were really important. And you asked about examples, and I'm involved with Rare Pizzas as well. And it sort of was a great graduate school. It was like going to the MIT Sloan School of, early, right? And we got this chance to really get in depth on all those levels. From there, I've done many projects because I have the seat on the NFT Foundation board for edible NFTs. So anybody doing edible NFTs, DM me. But there's a project that drops next week by Chef Christian Petroni in partnership with Crypto.com. And as a brand, Crypto.com is doing a lot to redefine, if you will, what it means to be a brand in this space. And Christian Petroni, of course, was the winner of the Food Network search for the next Food Network star. And he's a pizzeria just genius. And he's made a garlic butter pizza, and he turned that into an NFT, an edible NFT.
Oh, wow.
And everybody says, well, what's an edible NFT? I can't eat it. Well, now you can. But edible NFTs, like all categories, it's what you can imagine, be inspired. Let your intention come to life in a very inventive way. And this is literally, Crypto.com is going to have a drop next week on Pi Day 3.14, March 14th. And you'll be able to literally buy an NFT that's this unbelievably fun, really cool animation of how to make this pizza. And then it gives you the right to go and actually get a slice. It gives you the
Amazing.
satisfaction of biting into that cheesy molten. Why is all that important? Because when we start doing things like coming to table and building community and sharing and understanding that cheesy, molten, pizza loving connection, because it's a global food, it's a global brand. Pizza is its own global food of love, right? It's a love language. A hot slice of pizza is a love language. It lets you use this to become something really important. Aakash and I understand that idea of hospitality. What can I give you to eat? What can I give you to drink? How can I take care of you when you're in my house? How can I give you somebody to let you know how important it is for you to be here as part of my community? And we created the host token. I don't know if you've mentioned it together previously, but the Hospitality Opportunity Service Token is a micro community of people that we wanted to welcome and take care of. But it's just another way that you can create the community, no matter how large or small it is, built around brand alignment. And that means engagement and sort of experience. But it's more than just an activation. It's more than just going to South by Southwest and handing out free slices of pizza, which is what we do with Rare Pizza, but it's what you can do with your brand in a way that really feels natural. Imagine the brand as a home or a house or a table. What do you want to do to invite people to your table? And what are you going to give them to make them feel part of that community that's in the vernacular, the currency of the value system that you establish together? That, to me, right there is where value comes in and where the brand comes to life. I know that was a lot, but I'm trying to catch up.
It wasn't a lot. It was everything.
I love it. I'm still hung up on pizza as a love language.
Can I just tell you, these big, juicy, it's not just a Sicilian slice, it's a garlic butter Sicilian slice. So imagine your favorite garlic bread and your favorite Sicilian pizza got together and had a baby together. Chef Christian Petroni has a maximalist attitude about flavor and, frankly, about everything. He doesn't have a restaurant right now, but he has a way. And I will tell you, the reason I'm involved in this project is not merely because I'm in charge in some way of encouraging the world of edible NFTs to happen, but because he was on with Guy Fieri and his colleagues from Food Network. I made it through the pandemic. because they gave me an experience that connected me. They had big boxes of food arrive at their house. They did a cooking competition. They played with each other. They showed me how to live with my friends remotely. They showed me how to cook with my friends remotely. If it wasn't for Chef Christian Petroni and Guy and Antonio LaFaso and all the rest, I don't know how I would have known how to do this. And remember, your brand, by example, will show people how to be it, how to live it, how to bring the brand to life. That's the genius of what you get to do. How do you want to bring your brand to life so that it is complete alignment? The more clarity you have with doing that, the more successful your brand will be, whatever it is. And there's always a way to connect it back to something really essential, fundamental. The more you zero in on that as the core component of how you build the brand, define the brand, and then bring it to life, the more successful you're going to be, but the more satisfied all your community members are going to be. And in turn, they will support you in everything that you do, not just your NFT drops.
I love it. Well, you've certainly brought things to life. I see a number of people saying they're ready for pizza today. So that's awesome. Awesome.
And if they get the NFT, here's the best part. We're all going to be in New York a week after the drop. So I think it's the 20th. You can literally go and meet Chef Christian Petroni. And you want to know why this matters to the brand? People want to go and have a slice with him. They want him to come and cook a slice, and he's going to travel around the country. So why would you buy the NFT if you're not in New York? Because he's going to go around the country and do this in different locations. You will get to try this. You will get some merch, but more importantly, you're going to be part of this pizza loving community. This project was done with the number 8 and the letters IT. And what that means is it's a group of people who understand that connecting through food is important, and they highlight pop-ups and limited editions, and more importantly, drops. Drops have gone from Supremes and the sneaker world and NFTs to the food world. There are food drops, and you can collect limited edition food experiences like badges. And Aided is the company that made this come to life. They're like the Bloomberg of food drops. And in partnership with Chef Petroni, what they've done is realized that people want to come and actually have this slice because it really is that good. And just think about it in your own life. When you discover something, isn't the first thing you want to do is tell somebody about it? Like, you got to try this. I have this thing and I want you to taste it. Isn't this good? Isn't this wonderful? Come to this place. Isn't it special? Invest in this thing. Isn't this awesome? It's that connection. So that's why this is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the name of the conversation here is community, socials, NFTs. So since we're getting close, technically our time was 45 minutes, but we're on our own schedule. But while I have you guys here, are there communities that you're a part of, ways for people in the chat to connect with you over socials, etc.? Do you guys have specific projects or handles that you would like to plug? Either shout them out or throw them in the chat there. And while I let you guys do that, I kind of want to know, since we're on the subject, Natalie, what's your favorite pizza topping?
Oh man, I have a long list.
Yeah.
My mother is Italian, well, part Italian, and so have a long list of pizza favorites. Because my mother is from northern Italy, from Genoa, love a good pesto. It has to be homemade, not the store stuff. Or a good white pizza, definitely a good favorite. Or pepperoni and olives with mushrooms, typically. So yeah, but white pizza is typically my go-to with the swirl of pesto. So.
Aakash, how about you? It looks like cooked pineapples. Okay. You're muted. I don't know if that was a connection thing, but you're muted.
He's still muted. I'm going to jump in. First of all, Natalie, I lived and studied in Parma.
I think my favorite topping probably
Oh no. Well, we're still having a connection issue with you, but I did see a question in the chat that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. In your experiences, what is
Can you
the
hear me?
average? I can, but you were breaking up a little bit, and now you're muted.
Oh, you can't hear me.
Yes, now I can. You want to give me your favorite pizza topping before I lose you again?
Can you hear me now?
I think there's a little bit of a delay, and video is not coming through strong. But Aakash works on that. I want to bring this question to the front here. What is the average time to build a good community? And I'm sure the answers will vary, but Natalie, Jennifer, Aakash, in your experience, in order to establish a community, how long do you anticipate that?
Well, I mean, Ross, we're living in this crazy time where Russia invaded Ukraine, and 10 days ago, we didn't have a community of people supporting Ukraine. And literally instantaneously, it proved that you can build a community overnight, depending on what happens in the world. Chef Jose Andres and World Central Kitchen instantly swung into action. There's a community that already existed that got brought together with others who were saying, I have to make sure I do something. Moms, my friend Brittany Kaiser, Nadia from Pussy Riot, the other members of the NFT Foundation, they swung into action. They were there early. And then, when there was a bombing and shelling of the maternity hospital, again, it roused. So an event can rouse a community virtually instantly. And if you have a very clear point of view, you can build it up over time if you have time. But I'm going to argue that time is actually very short for people, because we have to have things like momentum and interest and relevance. And it seems, whether it's on Clubhouse, we all came together. We didn't know each other 2 years ago. Clubhouse, we built a Clubhouse community almost instantly. We did certain things because things are happening fast right now. Don't ignore the time factor of that. But I'll also be quick to point out that we continue to build our Rare Pizza family. And it took a little bit, and it did grow, and it grew in a sort of older way. And now that it's here, it grows really organically. As we do our events, we go to ETH Denver and we give pizza to 100 people, we have 20 new members. Life happens, and it happens within our brand framework and our brand kind of style and ethos. And when it comes to life the way it naturally does, you will naturally grow. But if you're really trying to do something fast, remember, there's got to be some kind of galvanizing event. There was great clarity with that. And I want to point out that event, that big event, it has a clarifying effect. You can recreate that clarifying effect to initiate something instantaneous like a flash mob, instantaneous like a global geopolitical event. Or if you're a brand and you have a very clear intention, you can really conceive of that magical spark that you can release into the world to have that same effect.
Excellent. Well, it looks like people enjoyed that response there. Got a lot of thumbs up in the chat. We are, I think, at this time, going to transition back to the open space, unless, Jonathan, you had another idea. We've got another conversation kicking off in about 10 minutes. So please stay tuned. And we are going to be learning about smart contracts with Scott Dudley, as Jonathan alluded to earlier. So if anyone has any final notes, last call. I think I'm going to end this session.
One last thing, since I wasn't here at the beginning, I wanted to thank and give a lot of credit to Jonathan. Our Jonathan Blanco has been a galvanizing leader in the space in terms of his own clarity and vision. And he's earned the respect of many, including those on the stage and in the room and in the space. So I just wanted to point out that sometimes it's very easy to see past the ease with which it looks like this all exists, and give him the credit that he's due for creating this. And for people like Natalie and Aakash to come forward and spend time, which has become there's no longer a direct equation between time and money. Time really is even more valuable than money. And this is a testament to Jonathan and the other members of this panel. But I wanted to also say that it's important to remember that my industry, the hospitality industry, is a service industry. And in a service industry, we are committed first and foremost to being of service. And I wanted to just tell people that, in fact, I am at your service. And if there is a way that I can be useful or helpful to your community, your cause, your brand, or your group, I'd be keen to speak with you about it if this has spoken to you in some way and, you know, given my contact information liberally. But I also want to point out that we host the Future Food and Hospitality on Clubhouse every Wednesday evening in the Talk Nerdy to Me Club, one of the big clubs. And we did that. Our friend Wolf and Lion, who passed away from COVID, was the one who established and co-founded Talk Nerdy to Me Club. And it's really my great privilege to be able to continue to live his mission, which is redefining success. And I want to leave you with this. This is from our friend Jin, who was the handle on Clubhouse and in the universe as Wolf and Lion. What if we measured success and defined success by the way we make other people believe in themselves?
I love that.
And that's been a tremendous galvanizing statement and intention that we keep alive. And I hope that you think about that. What if we redefine success as our ability to make others believe in themselves?
I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm glad that we were able to get you in here because, yeah, everything you've said has been great. Natalie, Aakash, thank you both. That we had a great Q&A session. I really appreciate you joining me and guiding me through community socials and NFTs, as I am, once again, pretty new to this market myself. Everybody else in the session, I will be ending this session. We've got about 5 minutes, and we're going to kick it over and talk about smart contracts with Scott Dudley. So we will catch you there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.